Good afternoon. Thank you for being here today and for helping us keep our residents informed. I'm joined today by members of my cabinet, and their teams have worked very effectively to prepare our city for this major storm. I'd like to thank all of our employees for their great work in this effort. As you all know, Hurricane Ian is fast approaching, and we want to make sure the community has the most up-to-date information available as we brace for this major hurricane. Now, around noon, I had the opportunity to speak with President Biden and FEMA Director Criswell, and they assured me that the administration and FEMA are monitoring the storm around the clock and are ready to support relief efforts in any way we deem necessary. I relayed to them our gratitude and reminded them of the strength and resilience of St. Petersburg's community and assured them that we have some of the finest employees and first responders in the nation, and they are ready to work alongside federal, regional, state, and other partners after the storm. Now, even though the center of the storm, of the projected track of the hurricane, has shifted further south, this is not the time to let down our guard. A powerful hurricane will approach the west coast of Florida later tomorrow and Thursday. St. Petersburg remains in the cone of uncertainty, and that means that the center of the hurricane is projected to travel somewhere in that cone. Do not focus on the center track. While we are hopeful that the current southward trend will lessen our impacts, this still is a huge storm that will still bring damaging weather to our city, even if it makes landfall further to the south. We have the potential for extended rain and major flooding, winds greater than 100 miles per hour, and damaging tornadoes, in addition to storm surge. Storms are also known to wobble in the final approach to landfall. They are unpredictable, and at any given time, we could see Hurricane Ian track back to the north and pose an imminent threat. Now, mandatory evacuations have been ordered for zones A, B, and C and mobile homes. Please continue to heed evacuation orders and get to your safe place by tonight before conditions are expected to deteriorate. As Governor DeSantis stated in our press conference yesterday, you don't need to go to Georgia. You just need to get to higher ground in a non-evac zone with your storm kit and supplies. Finally, thanks to the St. Petersburg City employees who have been working around the clock to ensure that we are prepared for this storm. And after Ian passes, we will make sure any interrupted services are restored, and we will move down a path of rebuilding with resiliency in mind. Thank you to the St. Pete community for doing your part and taking the time to plan and prepare for the storm. Remember, you can visit stpeteprepares.com for real-time updates and information. And now I'd like to pass it on to our emergency manager, Amber Bullock. Amber?
Thank you, Mayor. So some of you may be breathing a sigh of relief as we've seen the latest track of Hurricane Ian shift a little bit south. Trust me, I'm with you. You know, as someone who also lives in a low-lying area, prepping my home and my family to evacuate, I want to let you know that now's not the time to let your guard down. So while we may be breathing a little easier, we still have to, lean forward and prepare because, as Mayor Welch said, we see those wobbles, right? So even though it's tracked south, we're still in that cone of uncertainty. And the National Weather Service has said that landfall can be anywhere from Fort Myers up to Cedar Key, most likely somewhere between Tampa Bay and Fort Myers. Even if the hurricane does stay south of us on its current forecast, we're not out of the woods. Mayor Welch mentioned the wind, the rain, the surge, and I just want to give you some specific numbers that's currently being forecast by the National Weather Service. Storm surge of 5 to 8 feet in the bay Wednesday night. If you live in those low-lying areas in St. Pete, you know what 5 to 8 feet can do. That's going to push a lot of water up into our roads, into our homes. Potential rainfall, in addition to that surge up to 24 inches, can be catastrophic in some areas. So that rainfall, that's a big impact that I don't want anyone to overlook. In addition, tornado event. With the way that it's forecast with the cold front coming down and this hurricane coming up and meeting that cold front, we could have a significant tornado event. So I don't want you to overlook what this storm could do. It is a very serious situation still, and it's not a quick-moving storm. It's expected to slow down as it approaches our coast, so it's not going to be, an in-and-out storm. It's going to sit here for a while, so it's going to prolong that event and really exacerbate those impacts. So again, we urge you to please use the remainder of today to prepare your family, prepare your pets for the long haul. Thank you, and stay safe, and I will turn it over to Claude Tinkersley, our Public Works Administrator.
Thank you, Amber. We've been preparing for these storms in many different ways, including spending hundreds of millions of dollars to improve our systems and putting in hundreds of thousands of labor hours to make sure that we're ready. And we're really grateful for all the people that have been assisting us. We're grateful to the citizens for working with us during the preparation for this storm. And we're aware of those people that have evacuated, but also aware that many of us still remain. And for those of us to remain, I want to plead with you, actually. During the storm, please reduce the amount of water you're using. We're not asking you to stop using water. We're not asking you to inconvenience yourself. But we want to make sure that when the storm is over, that this system is ready to welcome back those who have evacuated and to help us recover and get back to work. So if you would do us a favor, reduce that water usage during the storm, and we will make it through and be able to welcome everybody back. Thank you very much. And now I'll turn it back over to Mayor Welch.
Thank you, Claude and Amber. That concludes our comments, and we'd be happy to take any questions you might have.
Mayor, have you made any asks from the federal government or Governor DeSantis, for any asks for resources?
Well, both Governor DeSantis and the White House reached out, as well as Rick Scott and Charlie Crist. I mean, our federal and state representatives have reached out to us and told us when we need something to let them know they are pre-positioning supplies, both at the state and the federal level. And so I think we'll be in good shape. I'll ask Amber or any other staff member if you've got more information.
Exactly what Mayor Welch said. In addition, we have great relationship with our county partners at County Emergency Management. And the way our resource structure flows is when we have a need here in St. Petersburg, we make that request up through Pinellas County to see if they can fulfill that resource need. And then that request will go on up to the state and to the federal level. So we'll be pre-scripting, some issues and gaps that we know that we have now. And as those gaps and issues present themselves during the storm or after the storm as we recover, we'll make those requests up through the county.
Could you elaborate on those steps?
I mean, it depends what our impacts are. So if it's a high water situation, and let's say we need additional boats for search and rescue or additional personnel to come down and aid our personnel when it comes to recovery, those would be those requests that we would send.
So things like trees like that haven't necessarily been requested this time.
Well, if our Leisure Services Administrator would like to come up, we do have contracts in place for those post-storm debris cleanups.
Mike, do you want to address that, Mike Jeffries?
Just as Amber indicated, we have contracts in place for debris management. We also have contracts in place for monitoring services so that we can get the fullest reimbursement while being efficient and effective at returning the streets of St. Pete back to the beautiful streets that they are pre-storm.
Are there any plans or talks right now to maybe shut down Code 275 or DMV or talk about that? Is that something you feel thinking about?
We did have that conversation, I think, with the governor yesterday. That would be an event where there's actual flooding on those roadways, and then the decision would be made to shut those down. The Sunshine Skyway is more of a wind issue. I do want to just hit one other issue, which isn't, germane to this specifically, but one of the things I talked with President Biden again today is about that infrastructure bill. No one's infrastructure is built to handle the kind of water event that we may have faced had the storm stayed on its track. And so that funding remains vital. Our infrastructure, we've invested a lot in it, where's Claude? But we're not there, and I don't think any system in Florida will be able to handle that kind of water. So that infrastructure bill money is very important. Yeah. I can, thank you. I can take direction. Any other questions?
Is there any plans for a curfew?
No.
Or state storm?
No. Chief? No.
St. Petersburg running a global housing crisis, there's damage to homes, and people can't get back to where they need to be. Is there anything for how to deal with that?
Well, we've already got a real vibrant housing program, and certainly those federal dollars would be a source for funding that going forward. But the last line in my comments was if we have to rebuild, we do it with resiliency in mind, and so that would be a primary focus going forward.
Do you have a sense of how much of the city is under mandatory evacuation? Is it a third? Is it half?
We've got the map up. In terms of population, I don't know what the number is, but it's the coastal, the low-lying areas on the boundaries of the city. The big, 2 islands of Pinellas, if you will, has a pretty good population base. So I wouldn't want to guess a percentage, but if we can throw the map up, you can see there's a large area that's a non-evac zone, and that's where the shelters are, and that's where we ask folks to move to if they're in an evac area.
I just wanted to say, half of St. Petersburg is under mandatory evacuation.
I don't think it's that high, but I'd want to get a specific number for you before I throw that.
Do you have a sense of how full shelters are or people who are evacuated on the city?
Does anybody have a shelter account, Amber, maybe?
We don't have a number for some of the
Okay.
And message to those who, of course, they talk more about in certain areas.
Yeah.
Message to those who may not be.
Well, maybe through the grace of God we escaped again, but at some point we're going to be hit by a storm, and those impacts will reach us. If you are in an evac area, and I don't remember an evac to level C in my time in public service, when we ask you to move, you need to move, because at some point first responders are not going to be able to come to you. And certainly, this isn't over yet. This could bounce right back and come straight at us overnight. But folks need to look at the science, look at what's happened just from rainfall in other parts of the area. Look at Jackson, look at other parts of the country where there's been flooding in places that it's never flooded before. So when we make the call, we ask folks to listen to that call.
Last question. Should the track shift of the direct possibility of the evacuation in the same period?
I don't believe so. The evacuations have been called, and it should be here shortly. So I think A, B, and C will be the evacuation area. Okay. Thank you all so much. Appreciate it. Thank you, team.
And that was the mayor of St. Pete, Ken Welch, speaking in Pinellas County. Folks, JB here with you live on WFLA Now in your hurricane headquarters on Tracking the Tropics. Let's explain where things go from here. Extremely important to let you know our coverage plan. A few things. We're going to be resuming our stream and our live Q&A portion of the program at 4 o'clock Eastern Time. Additionally, we're going to be live coming up at 5 o'clock with a track update. So basically from 4 to beyond 6 o'clock, really the evening hours coming up here, we are going to be live to discuss the track update, discuss the latest data coming in, and yes, to bring you the wobble tracker, something that we're going to be sharing quite a bit of here at WFLA as we look closely at the track versus the actuality of what is going on with the storm to the southwest of the Florida Peninsula currently. Of course, we're getting in a lot of video as well. Our team here at WFLA, our reporters are starting to fan out to their respective assignment locations. A lot going on here at WFLA as far as our preparation for the hours and days ahead. But we want to let you know that our coverage resumes at 4 o'clock Eastern ahead of the 5 o'clock track update. We'll stay with you live so that we can break down the latest model data and the latest track from the National Hurricane Center. So folks, we'll see you coming up here at 4 o'clock on WFLA Now on Tracking the Tropics, powered by Handyman Roofing. Thanks so much for watching.